The Baltimore Ravens just made their first trade of the season, trading for Panthers wide receiver and former Steeler Diontae Johnson. Let's talk about it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TTP Ravens Media. We're back bringing you videos during the week. It's exciting. I've been trying to get back into it for a while now, but we have Diontae Johnson coming over to the Baltimore Ravens. The trade details, the Ravens sent over a 5th-round pick, which if you know Eric DeCosta, you know the Baltimore Ravens, of course they're trading a 5th-round pick. That's all they trade. 5th-round pick for Diontae Johnson and the Panthers 6th-round pick, which in reality, as it sits right now, I believe is a 19-pick difference. But the Panthers are going to be a top 5 pick, and the Ravens hopefully are going to be a bottom 5, really hopefully, knock on wood, bottom 1 pick in that draft. So the hope is it's really only a 10-15 pick difference. But in reality, if it's a 20 pick difference, that's not a lot that you're giving up for a player on a 1-year contract. You're only having to pay less than $3 million this year, and is going to come in at a position that just had one of the worst games in the last year for a position group. And that's obviously talking about the wide receivers after they went out there and, all of them made mistakes. Some of them had great plays. I'm not trying to say that this receiving core is terrible, but it shows that Eric DeCosta, John Harbaugh, Lamar Jackson, maybe even, they felt like they wanted to make a change. They wanted to make an upgrade. And that speaks to this wide receiver room, but it also speaks to their goals for this season, right? This is not a team that is trying to make the playoffs. This is not a team that's trying to win the division. This is a team trying to go out there and win the Super Bowl. And when you see other teams like the Kansas City Chiefs making moves, you're kind of in a situation now where you're like, oh, if they're making moves, maybe we should too. And we went out and we got a wide receiver, and a wide receiver that I think fits what the Ravens have struggled with in the postseason the most in the last couple of years. Because if you don't know Diontae Johnson, if you don't remember Diontae Johnson from his Pittsburgh years where he was a Pro Bowler, I want to say it was 2018. It was not his final season. It might have been 2017, but he was a one-time Pro Bowler with 1,000-yard season that year. And Diontae Johnson is a separator. He is someone that is a route technician that is going to get space in man coverage and find the soft spots. And that's what the Ravens have needed, right? You look at that Chiefs game last year, the biggest issue was Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman. I'll say when they were targeted, because we know that there were some plays where they didn't get targets, but they might have gotten more open. They were not separated nearly as much as you would hope. And one of the other issues was, okay, your top 2 receivers aren't getting open. You would hope your 3rd wide receiver is. Unfortunately, our 3rd wide receiver is Nelson Agholor, who at this point in his career, I'm done. Like I'm done having to rely on Nelson Agholor because multiple games he's gone out there. I think it was the Texans playoff game last year where it's just like big 3rd down early in the game. Lamar hits him perfectly in stride, and it just goes through his hands. And you're like, dude, it's 3rd down in a big game. We cannot stop dropping these easy 3rd down receptions, right? As frustrating as the Rashad Bateman, hitting the helmet drop was, that's a 50-yard pass. But if you're a wide receiver and you're dropping slant routes on 3rd down when you are open, that's an issue. That's a clear issue. So the Ravens are now making that adjustment, and they're going to have Diontae Johnson as their number 3 wide receiver to start the year. And we all know that the Ravens, they're going to shift their players, right? Wide receiver 3 doesn't mean that he's only going to be on the field in 3 wide receiver sets. Certain packages, he'll be out there with Zay Flowers. Certain packages, he'll be out there with Rashad Bateman. It just depends on what they're trying to do. But we have to know that Diontae Johnson, 1, is the leading Panthers wide receiver this year, but 2, is somebody that can get open and has been not the drop liability that Nelson Agholor has been for the Ravens. This year, he does have 2 drops, which is 42nd among wide receivers. So again, nothing amazing, but nothing bad at the same time. And you also have to remember his quarterbacks are Bryce Young and his quarterbacks are Andy Dalton. So not the best quarterback play, but 2 drops this year, not great. Last year in Pittsburgh, though, 2 drops. That's something that is a very good number to finish the season with. He was ninth in the league with drops. This is according to PFF. The year before that, he was pretty bad. I think he had 8 drops, but he worked on it. He got better, and Diontae Johnson started making plays that Pittsburgh Steelers fans were a big fan of. He was a huge part of their offense with George Pickens as that kind of number 2 wide receiver, that chain mover. And now with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, the Ravens offense is going to be able to rely on, hey, if you go man coverage, we will beat you. And we'll beat you by Zay Flowers getting open on the route, Mark Andrews, who's one of the best separating tight ends in the NFL, getting open on a route, Isaiah Likely, who's a contested catch magnet, just making a good play, Rashad Bateman, one of the best separators in the league, getting open on a route, Diontae Johnson getting open on a route. Or guess what? If you run man coverage and you don't spy, Lamar Jackson's going to scramble and get 25 yards. Right? There's so many, and if you do spy, that reduces a pass rusher, and that's going to give Lamar Jackson and all these wide receivers and tight ends more time to get open. I'm a huge fan of this move. Diontae Johnson is not a deep threat. Diontae Johnson is not a player that is going to have, catch and run 80-yard touchdowns for this team. But what he is going to have is the ability to get open and have Lamar Jackson find him for good results. And this could be a move similar to what the Ravens have done in recent years, right? You look at the Marcus Peters trade. You look at the Roquan Smith trade. You look at the, you could even say the Yannick Ngakoue move, back in the day. These are guys on expiring contracts that we trade essentially 5th-round picks for. And a lot of them we ended up re-signing because they were very, very good because they're playing for a contract. Diontae Johnson knows that if he finished the season in Carolina if you extrapolate his numbers, I think it would be around like 700 yards receiving and 6 touchdowns. He's probably not getting that great of a contract, right? It's not going to be bad, but he's on a 1-year deal in Carolina. He's not really doing a lot. He's not the wide receiver 1 that they were hoping for when they signed him, hoping he could be a, that 1,000-yard receiver again. But that's not necessarily all on him. That's the Panthers, just Dave Canales and the horrendous atrocities that are happening right now with the Panthers. I mean, it's just an awful, awful place to be if you're anybody in the NFL. I feel bad for Clowney too. But now he gets to go out there, try and make a playoff run, try and have some big plays, and play for a team that's contending for a Super Bowl. And that could allow him to get a bigger contract, even if he's not playing, as the number 1 wide receiver. Right? Like, if you see a wide receiver go out there and, get to the AFC Championship game, have some plays against the Chiefs, teams are going to be like, oh, wow, that guy's good. I think people are kind of forgot that, Diontae Johnson is not a bad wide receiver. He's not a top 20 wide receiver, but he's not a bad wide receiver. He's a wide receiver that any team in the NFL would be happy to be starting as a top 3 wide receiver on their team. I don't think there is a team in the NFL that wouldn't start him at wide receiver 3, which just speaks to what he is and what he's able to do, because a good separating wide receiver 3. And again, he might be better than Bateman. He might be wide receiver 2. It'll just take some time for him to adjust into that. But I think that this is a really exciting thing to watch happen after we had such a poor game. I like the immediate change that Eric DeCosta made. And it also speaks to, hey, the Ravens made a change on offense. And I don't know if I necessarily believe this or align with this take, but they didn't make a move on defense yet. So they're putting their faith in their defense and the talent that they have on the defense, because let's be honest, they have talent on the defense, right? Marlon Humphrey, very talented. Kyle Hamilton, very talented. Roquan Smith, talented. Trenton Simpson, talented. Matabike, talented. Nate Wiggins, talented. And this isn't even talking about the guys that are playing well this year, like a Kyle Van Noy as a pass rusher and Travis Jones as an interior threat. They have so many things going for them. But right now they're working through a lot of kinks. or I think that's the proper word for that. But they're working through a lot of things, and they're showing faith in what they have right now. That's not to say they won't make a move. I'd be pretty happy with a big move for a pass rusher. I think that'd be a lot of fun. But at the same time, they haven't done that move yet. I don't know who exactly would be available, but it's pretty exciting to see that. Hey, after all these years, the Ravens have made a move for a wide receiver during the year. And it's not a wide receiver 6. It's a guy that, like, hey, this guy's legit. A lot of Ravens fans wanted to sign Diontae Johnson in the offseason. I wasn't necessarily on board with it, but that was also me thinking that, hey, we're going to draft a receiver. And we did. We drafted Tez Walker. He just hasn't been able to play. Injuries have held him back so far. I hope he's able to play. He's the deep threat that we want. Rashad Bateman, I've said it so many times, and I said it not after this week's game, but 2 weeks ago, where I was like, "Oh my gosh!" I've always said Rashad Bateman is like one of the worst ball trackers I've ever seen. And then he goes out and he has that long touchdown on Monday Night Football against the Bucks. I was like, "Let's go!" Like, oh my gosh, maybe he's fixed. And then he like trips and the ball hits him in the face on a deep ball, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's the tracking. That's the tracking I know." So Tez Walker is the hopeful deep threat. Bateman gets open. Deontay gets open. Zay gets open. This offense is going to be a lot of fun to watch. Hopefully, Deontay's going to be able to play this week. If not, play next week. It should be a lot of fun. Thank you all so much for watching. Subscribe for more. And let me know in the comment section down below what your thoughts are on the Ravens finally making a move for a wide receiver that's not 34 years old, that's not a free agent that hasn't played in 2 years, and is actually a productive player.